Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller. So the election is over. We're soon going to be seeing the new parliament in operation. So for All Angles today, we're going to be talking to some of the parliamentarians in the lower house in particular. Now, in the second half of the program, we'll be talking to Floyd Green and Horace Chang of the Jamaica Labour Party. In this section of the program, we're talking to Isat Buchanan and Zuleika Jess. Now, Isat Buchanan represents the constituency of Portland Eastern and Zuleika Jess, the constituency of St. Elizabeth North East. Thank you both so much for coming in. Appreciate it. And I have to just start with Isat Buchanan because Portland East has been all over the news. It's been such big news that you actually did manage to beat the JLP's Anne-Marie Vaz there. And a lot of people have been saying, how come? Very briefly, what do you attribute it to?
You know, the social media space is completely different to what's happening on the ground. The simple answer is the message resonated with the people. I brought the heat, health, education, agriculture, and tourism, and we launched the DEEP program, which is the Digital Economy Educational Program. The people of Portland, they're very prideful. They want better for the future and the next generation that follow. And education is the great divider. That focus was important to them, and the land issue. We can talk more about that, but land, very important to the people.
What about you, Zuleika Jess? What do you attribute your win to?
I think it's a number of factors. For me, hard work, it began right there. When I was called to serve the people of Northeastern St. Elizabeth, I actually moved. I relocated to St. Elizabeth. And so I had been living there for almost 3 years. It means that I was present at every event that you could think of: graduation, grave digging, funerals, church service. I was there in the good times and in the bad times, back to school. Name it, I would have been part of the community activities. And so along with being present, being on the ground, my days, I would tell people, were like 12-hour long days. So I would start out at 8 or 9 in the morning, and at 11, I'm still on the road in the nights. Of course, along with the hard work, I was blessed to have tremendous support from my councillors. I have really committed councillors who are on-the-ground politicians. They know their people. And so that made my work a lot easier, because when persons in the communities saw that I was accepted by the councillors, they themselves understood that you know, we're one goal, one mission. And you saw that in the results. The results would have shown that we actually exceeded even our 2020 numbers as well as our 2016 numbers. So we got back the votes that we had lost. We unified the constituency. And so we had a formidable force to work with in 2025.
Here's the thing, though. The PNP thought it was going to win the election. So MPs like you, MP elects like you, now would have been expecting that you would be in Parliament on the governing side with access to government resources and everything that comes with that. So all these promises you all been making to your constituents now, let me ask you first, Isat Buchanan, how that work now when you're in opposition?
You know, totally unbothered. I never made any promise that is not doable. One of the things is you tell your constituents as it is. The reality is you don't make fanciful promises. And the things that I am trying to implement, especially when we're talking about education, when you think about agriculture in the space, and when you think about entertainment, even the health sector, these things are promises that can be kept, notwithstanding. It's just about advocacy, and I certainly am going to be able to deliver.
Same question.
For me, I'm always prepared for any eventuality. And so my leadership in the parish and in the constituency would say to you that I would have made it clear to them that I believe it is going to be a very close election. There are no guarantees in politics. And so against that background, I was very, very clear in terms of my own utterances. So for example, the programs and policies that I would have advanced, I would have said to them that I'm prepared to establish from my own personal resources a social welfare fund. I'm going to start the fund with $2 million of my own money. So regardless of the national outcome of the election, that social welfare fund is going to be in place for my constituents. Those persons who need assistance with buying their grocery, with sending the children to school, paying the bus fare, those who need to buy the prescription, they will be able to access that regardless of the outcome of the national election. So for me and my people in Northeastern St. Elizabeth, we will be fine because we're going to be doing the things that we had committed to do regardless of what has happened.
2 million sounds like a lot, and you know, once people start draw down on it and bills start
goes in no time.
and grocery and back to school and everything that I got done. What happens when it finish?
I'm very happy you asked that question because I'm always at pains to say to persons that 2 million is what we're going to start it with. That's not what we're going to end it with. That is my personal commitment, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to be reaching out to investors and reaching out to other persons in the diaspora who have already given their commitment that they believe in the vision that I have for Northeast and they're willing to put their money where their heart is. And so I know, just as we have set up welfare funds in the past and they have been sustainable, I went to law school because of a fund that was in place that provided a scholarship for me. So I know as an attorney, I can set up a trust, I can set up a fund that will be sustainable for generations and generations to come. And that's my commitment.
A lot of people don't see this MP thing as a handout thing, you know, very transactional. Doesn't this feed into that narrative?
And I always say that it is quite unfortunate whenever it is that we talk about assisting people below the poverty line, people talk about handout. But then when we talk about lowering the transfer tax from 5% to 2% so that real estate developers and investors can benefit and have more monies in their pockets when they sell real estate, people don't see it as a give back. When we talk about the government just in March slashing by 80%, they reduced the bond on import duties so that new car dealers could actually save and invest money back into their business and make it clear that those monies will not necessarily translate into a reduction or a decrease in car values or car prices. Those are monies which benefit, and those are programs which benefit the rich and the connected. But yet when we do things that benefit the poor, people say it's a handout. For me, I believe that as much as I'm going to be implementing and working hard, fighting, advocating to have skills training centers and put in place mechanisms that will provide employment or at least bring employment into the constituency, I think that I have a duty to also make sure that my constituents don't die of hunger whilst I teach them how to fish. So I don't have a problem. I don't see it as a handout. I see it as a help out.
You mentioned the land issue. What are the land issues in Portland and how you intend to address them?
All right, so there's a lot of land or persons on land, and in Jamaica we have these two Jamaicas existing at one time. When poor people is on land, they're squatters. When rich people identify lands which they want to own, they adversely possess it in a timely manner in keeping with the law. A lot of persons are on land now. They have reached the 12-year threshold for the private land, and some have also reached the government threshold, which is the 60 years collectively with family. So what we're trying to do is to ensure that we get title into the hands of people. And there's also what I coin the land grabbing issue, where persons are being chased off a land without proper assessment as to whether or not they've already owned the land. And so that resonated with the people because there were no trespassing signs put up in the prospect area, and the fishermen and the persons in that area, that really bothered them, and they responded at the polls. I want to just address one thing though, Dion, is certainly for Portland Eastern, I'm proud to say, is begging and the diaspora that assisted my campaign. I don't have any shame to say that the things I could not afford, I was on social media and I said to the diaspora, the children need tablets, send the barrels, they need things, because that is the reality. And we are going to continue with the assistance of the diaspora and anybody who wants to assist persons, and we have no problem to say that that is the process. And until we can transcend the Maslow's laws of hierarchy, just the physical needs, we have to start somewhere.
Listen to the two of you though, it sounds as if you intend to put a lot of your own personal resources and personal time into this thing. All-time politicians will tell you of politicians who have done that to their detriment and died paupers, died penniless, and died with lots of regrets. Are you going down a road you might not be able to sustain? You first, Zuleika Jess.
I always say to persons that don't go into politics unless you love people and unless you are willing to personally invest your time, your resources. The fact of the matter is, I think I can speak for both of us that it's almost like a pay cut for persons like ourselves going into politics. We're getting less out of it financially than what we're actually putting out there. But at the end of the day, I don't think most of us do it because of politics. We do it because of our genuine love for people and because we genuinely want to see the community's progress. We want to see people's lives be improved.
And that's exactly my point, though, that at the end of the day, if you wind up broke and penniless and people are passing a hat for you, isn't that problematic, or is that something you're thinking about at all?
I always think that it's important to be responsible, and so even as much as we give a lot, I think most of us are smart enough to put in place mechanism and arrangements for our personal well-being so that you won't see us with our hands outstretched. So I think we should be fine.
Quick comment?
You know, I'm going to just say this. I anchor my whole life on God. I'm a human rights attorney where a majority of the cases I have done, the people who are my clients, they didn't have the money to pay me. And what I would have learned from law school, that there will be times you got that one client that changes the narrative. But outside of that, I'm dealing with the politics to know that if the people are better, it's less for me to do. And I have a timeline for how to make people's lives better, and that is my mission. I'm a realist and I make the impossible possible. These are not just catchphrases.
You haven't answered my question yet, but I'm at the break. So let's go to the break and we come back, we'll soon come.